They said I could not even afford a car, so I landed a helicopter on my parents' front lawn. The rotor wash flattened the grass and sent maple leaves spinning like coins in the air. I stepped out in jeans and a sweater with a thread pulled at the cuff. No designer logos, no performance, just me. My brother Michael froze in the doorway. My sister Brooke grabbed her husband's arm. My mother sat down so fast the screen door rattled. My father stared like the sky itself had come down to visit. I am Avery Collins. I am 32. I have dreaded this family meeting for months. They called it a talk about care plans and budgets. What they meant was a quiet way to remind me of my place. The middle child, with big ideas and small results. The one who chose a messy life over a proper one. The one they could pat on the head and assign a token share, smile, nod, be grateful. I told them we should finish the conversation at my place. The pilot cut the engines. The yard went still except for the clicking metal as the blades slowed. I could hear my own heartbeat in that silence. I could feel 10 years of swallowed words pressing against my ribs. I lifted my old duffel. I kept my face calm. I said we would be back in an hour. Here is what they do not know. I left Willow Creek with $200 and a second-hand laptop. I ate noodles and sold websites to tire shops and diners. I slept 3 hours and coded in laundromats because the hum kept me awake. I broke down twice. I stood up 3 times. I built Harbor Gate security from a table that wobbled. I filed a patent that changed how small clinics protect patient data. I signed a deal that made me rich enough to buy peace. I did not buy peace. I built something that mattered instead. That is the part I never told them, not because I am ashamed, because I learned to love the quiet. When people underestimate you, they speak freely. They show you where the levers are. In business, that is an edge. In family, it is a bruise. The bruise thickens and you start to wear it like armor. You forget to take it off. Michael texted last week and asked if I could come home and chip in what I can. Brooke asked if I wanted her old blazer for job interviews. I said yes to the trip and no to the blazer. I booked the helicopter because time matters now. Dad's diagnosis is moving faster. Mom's hip needs more help. I am done being late to the life that is happening in front of us. The door opened wider. My mother tried to smile. The line wobbled on her mouth. My father's eyes were bright the way they get when a memory catches the light. Michael stepped onto the porch, hands on his hips, trying to look like a man in charge of a storm. Brooke adjusted her pearl earring and said my name like a question. I said we have options. I said I would explain everything at the house. I said I would show them. The pilot nodded to me. The headset felt warm against my ears. The cabin smelled like leather and rain. As we lifted, the house that built our beliefs shrank to a tidy square. The maple turned to a coin. The streets drew thin lines toward the hills. I watched Willow Creek fall away and thought about what comes next. Not a spectacle, not revenge, a reveal, a reset, a chance to put my family at a table where everybody gets a real seat, starting now. From the air, Willow Creek looks like a postcard someone left in the sun too long. The colors are softer, the edges a little blurred. Flying over it now, I remember exactly why I left, and exactly why I came back. We land at my place in less than 15 minutes. I watch Michael's jaw clench as he steps onto the helipad, as if he's trying to decide whether to be impressed or offended. Brooke pulls her cashmere wrap tighter, like the air is different here. Ethan scans the grounds the way only a banker does, eyes running numbers. "This is yours?" my mother asks, her voice thin. "Yes," I say. "And before we go inside, I want to tell you how I got here." They follow me down the path toward the main house. I built the stone walkway to feel solid underfoot. No creak, no give, My father notices. He used to measure a man by the way he built a floor. I start with the easy part, how I spent high school designing websites for the hardware store and the coffee shop, how I skipped college against everyone's advice. Michael smirks. Brooke sighs like we've been over this before. I skip ahead. I left with $200 and a busted laptop. I worked out of laundromats and diners. I failed 3 times. I almost filed bankruptcy twice. You should have called, my mother says. I did, I reply. And you told me to come home and get a real job. I wasn't ready to quit yet. Brooke glances at Michael. He shifts his weight, but says nothing. I got my break with the security protocol I built for a small clinic. It stopped a breach before it happened. Word spread. Within a year, Harborgate Security was in 10 states. Last year, Northlake Systems acquired us. I stayed on as head of my division. Brooke laughs, quick, sharp, like she can't help herself. That's actually true? It is, I say evenly. Inside, the house opens up in light and wood. High ceilings, wide windows, everything deliberate but not ostentatious. I watch them take it in. My father trails his hand along the banister, testing the polish. This isn't just a house, I tell them. It's an office, a retreat, a base for what I've been building quietly. And it's the reason I asked you here. Ethan finally speaks. Because of your parents' care? Yes. I've already arranged for them to move to Summit Grove Elder Care when they're ready. It's not just a facility. It's a place designed to keep dignity intact. Memory gardens, workshop rooms, personalized living spaces. Michael's frown deepens. You found this on Google? No, I say, holding his gaze. I built it. That lands heavier than I expect. My mother covers her mouth. Brooke blinks like she's trying to refocus. You what? Michael asks, flat. I funded Summit Grove. It's been my project for 3 years. The trust is already in place for Mom and Dad. Everything is covered. For life. Silence. Heavy, thick. My father nods slowly, like he's cataloging this for the moments when his mind feels foggy. You could have said something, Brooke finally whispers. I know, I answer. But you wouldn't have heard it then. Michael looks like he's about to argue, but the sound of footsteps interrupts us. Margot appears from the West Hall with a tablet in her hands. Avery, she says, you might want to see this. I take the tablet. One look at the screen and my pulse spikes. It's an urgent security feed from the city office. Someone just tried to breach Harborgate's core servers from an IP address in Willow Creek, and I know exactly who has the only laptop capable of it. The tablet's glow lit my hands as Margot whispered. It's live. They're still inside the firewall. My mind split in two, one half still standing in the sunlit foyer of my estate, my family watching, the other already racing through breach protocols. Harborgate's security is layered like a vault. The only way in without setting off alarms is to have a backdoor key, and I only made 2. One lives in my Seattle office safe. The other, I scan the room. Michael notices. What is it? He asks, trying for casual, but his eyes give away the flicker of curiosity. I don't answer. Margot, lock down all regional servers, reroute traffic through the Tokyo relay, and ping Northlake's crisis team. I say. She's already moving. Brooke steps forward. Avery, you're scaring Mom. I turn to my mother. It's just work, nothing to worry about. We'll handle it. It's a lie, but I can't drop this in front of them. Not yet. I lead them into the library, my favorite room. Floor-to-ceiling shelves, a fire pit in the center, glass doors opening to the west garden. Sit, I say. You deserve to know what's been going on these past years. I tell them about the ramen years, 18-hour days, my desk stacked with takeout containers, my code running on borrowed cloud time. The first near collapse when a client defaulted, the second when a competitor tried to reverse engineer my protocol. I learned fast, I say. I learned to think 2 moves ahead. That's how Harborgate survived long enough to grow. Michael leans back, arms crossed. And then you just sold it for millions? Not just sold, I correct. I negotiated a 40% equity hold in the parent company. They get my patents, I keep my vision. That's why I can fund projects like Summit Grove. Brooke exhales like she's been holding her breath for 10 years. So, all those times we thought you were broke? I was investing in things you couldn't see yet, I say. Dad smiles faintly. That's business, huh? Planting before the rain. For a moment, the warmth between us feels real. But in the corner of my eye, I see Margot re-enter, her phone pressed to her ear. She doesn't interrupt, but she meets my gaze and gives a small shake of her head. The breach isn't stopping. I keep talking, telling them about the moment Northlake's offer came through. The room where I signed. The pen I almost dropped because my hands were shaking. The champagne I never opened because all I could think about was how far from Willow Creek I'd come, and how far I still felt. Brooke asks, "Why not tell us then? Why wait until now?" Because I wasn't sure the success would stick, I admit, and because part of me wanted you to see me through your own eyes one last time before I changed the picture forever. Michael's phone buzzes. He glances at it quickly, then flips it face down. It's subtle, but I catch the move. "That's a work thing?" I ask. He shrugs. "Just a project." The conversation drifts back to Summit Grove, but my mind stays locked on that breach. Willow Creek isn't exactly a cybercrime hotspot. Whoever is behind this knows me, knows my systems. And then I remember, last Christmas, Michael borrowed my old laptop just to check something when his was acting up. I never got it back. Margot's voice cuts in from the doorway. "Avery, the intrusion's origin just narrowed to one address." She turns her screen toward me. It's my parents' house. The address on Margot's screen burned into my mind like a brand. My parents' house. The one we left barely an hour ago. I forced my face neutral, tucking that fact into a locked drawer in my head. No way was I detonating that bomb in front of my family without knowing exactly what was inside it. "Margot, keep tracing. Do not alert them," I murmured. She nodded and slipped out. Brooke was already fussing with her scarf in the library mirror. "If we're talking serious matters, shouldn't we at least have something to eat?" "Dinner's in the West Dining Room," I said. "Chef Thomas is ready." I led them down a hall lined with black and white photographs of Seattle's waterfront, shots I'd taken during the nights I'd walked the piers to clear my head. Brooke trailed behind, whispering to Ethan. Michael walked ahead like he owned the place, peering into rooms without asking. The dining room was set like something out of a magazine. Long walnut table, candles in brass holders, plates with a rim of deep cobalt. My mother actually stopped in the doorway, one hand to her heart. "This is beautiful," she said softly. "Thank you. I wanted tonight to feel different from the way we usually do this." Michael pulled out the chair at the head of the table without hesitation. Brooke took the seat opposite. I didn't bother to fight over placement. I knew my position wasn't at the head, but at the hinge, the one who could swing things open. We ate slowly. Chef Thomas had made rosemary roast chicken, sweet potato puree, a salad that tasted like a summer afternoon. The conversation, though, had the same old weather. Michael brought up his firm's quarterly earnings. Brooke talked about a gala she'd chaired. Ethan compared the estate's square footage to a ski lodge they'd stayed at in Aspen. Finally, Brooke turned to me. And what about you, Avery? Besides this, she gestured vaguely around the room. Any exciting developments in your, what is it again, freelancing? Small business solutions, I said. Michael chuckled. You know, I might be able to get you something steadier. We've got an opening in our marketing department. Modest salary, but you'd get benefits. I smiled without teeth. I'll keep that in mind. Inside, the old frustration twisted, but I kept my voice level. Let them think they were tossing me a rope while I stood on my own dock. Halfway through dessert, my phone buzzed under the table. One look at the preview, and my appetite vanished. Margot again. They're inside a restricted client vault. 2 minutes before lockdown fails. Restricted vault. That wasn't just Harborgate's code. That was the data room for our Summit Grove medical files. I set my fork down slowly. I'm sorry, I need to step away for a moment, I said. Michael smirked. Freelance emergency? Something like that. In the hallway, I answered Margot's call. Still the parents' address? I asked. Yes, and Avery. The access key is coming from your old laptop's Mac ID, the one you said Michael borrowed? I closed my eyes, felt my pulse tick in my throat. Can you freeze it without tipping them off? I can, she said. But Avery, someone at that house just tried to open your personal archive. I gripped the phone harder. That archive held exactly 2 things: my patent blueprints and the signed trust documents for my parents. By morning, the breach was contained, frozen mid-command before it could open a single file. Margot's team sealed the ports and masked the trail, but I'd memorized every byte of the access log. It still pointed to my parents' house, which meant today's family meeting would have 2 agendas, theirs and mine. We gathered in the sunlit conference room off the main hall. Michael had his laptop open, a tidy spreadsheet glowing on the screen. Brooke sat beside him, notebook poised like she was about to interview a head of state. Ethan poured coffee for everyone but me, a little gesture, probably unconscious, that reminded me exactly where they thought I ranked. Michael cleared his throat. We've researched several options for Mom and Dad's care. All high quality, all within a reasonable distance. I let him run through his slides. Pictures of manicured grounds, clean hallways, glossy brochures full of smiling seniors. Numbers followed, monthly costs, projected gaps after insurance, contingency funds. He spoke like he was the only adult in the room. And here's where we land, he said, clicking to a final cell. Brooke and I will cover 85%. Avery, if you can manage 15, that's $1,200 a month. If that's too steep, we can adjust down to $500 and make up the difference. Brooke nodded sympathetically. We don't want this to be a hardship for you. I sat back. Before I answer, I have a proposal. One more option I think we should consider. Michael gave a short laugh. If it was worth considering, it would have shown up in my research. It wouldn't, I said, meeting his gaze. It's not on any public list. Summit Grove Elder Care. Private admission only through its foundation. Ethan raised a brow. Foundation? I founded it 3 years ago. For the first time all morning, Michael's rhythm broke. Brooke blinked twice, like I'd spoken in a foreign language. You're saying you own a care facility? Michael asked. I'm saying I built one for families like ours, and it's already paid for Mom and Dad's lifetime care. Silence. My father looked from face to face like he was trying to measure if we were all watching the same film. My mother's hand went to her necklace. Brooke's pen hit the table. You could have told us. You wouldn't have heard me, I said. Not then. Before anyone could respond, a sharp ping sounded from Michael's laptop. He angled the screen away, too quickly, but I'd already caught a glimpse, A remote access alert. Margot's voice came in over my phone's secure line in my pocket, almost on cue. Avery, the breach attempt restarted 5 minutes ago, from an unprotected device. I kept my voice steady. Michael, mind if I take a look at that? He frowned. It's work. I stood. So is this. I reached for the laptop, but he closed it, slow and deliberate. What exactly are you accusing me of? He asked. His tone suddenly sharper. I let the silence stretch. The hum of the air vents sounded like distant static. Brooke glanced between us, confused. Ethan's jaw tightened. Finally, I said, someone at Mom and Dad's house tried to access my personal archive last night. The same archive that contains their trust documents. And they used my old laptop to do it. Michael's face didn't change. Not much. But his fingers tapped once, twice against the table. And then my father spoke. Quiet, but clear. That laptop's not at our house anymore, he said. Your brother took it home. The words hung in the air like a dropped glass that hadn't hit the floor yet. Michael didn't deny it. He just looked at our father, then back at me. His mouth pressed into a hard, bloodless line. I borrowed it, he said finally, like we were talking about a missing sweater. Months ago, I didn't think you'd care. You didn't think I'd care that you took a device loaded with proprietary code? I asked. My voice was calm, but my pulse thudded in my ears. He spread his hands. I wasn't using it. I needed a spare when mine went in for service. Brooke cut in. What does this have to do with anything? Can we not turn a meeting about our parents into another one of your business drama stories? I ignored her. Michael, the breach came from that laptop, last night, into my archive. Someone was after Summit Grove's trust documents. He opened his mouth, but Ethan leaned forward. If your brother's firm is in trouble, selling access to something like that could be... Michael shot him a look that could have frozen boiling water. Stay out of this. Enough, my mother said sharply. She didn't raise her voice often, but when she did, the room stilled. If this concerns your father's care, we deserve to know everything. I exhaled. It does, and you will, but not here. Not in this room where every conversation turns into a scoreboard. I stood and motioned toward the hall. Come with me. All of you. Brooke muttered something about theatrics under her breath, but she followed. We passed through the east wing, sunlight pouring through glass walls, the gardens rolling out in green and gold. At the end of the corridor, double oak doors swung open to reveal the main living room, 2 stories high, windows framing the lake, the stone fireplace lit even though it was warm outside. This is Summit Grove's funding arm, I said, gesturing around us. This house, this property, it's more than where I live. It's the regional headquarters for the work I've been doing the past decade. Brooke's eyes darted to the carved crest above the fireplace, Harbor Gate Foundation. I led them to a glass table stacked with binders, contracts, and photos. These, I said, flipping open the top binder, are the care plans already in place for Mom and Dad. Their medical needs, living arrangements, even personal preferences, all locked in, paid for. Irrevocable. My mother's hand went to her mouth. My father leaned forward, squinting at the pages like he wanted to memorize them. Michael lingered near the back, not touching anything. Why keep all this from us? Brooke asked. Because every time I tried to talk about my work, I was interrupted by questions about my real job, I said, or given gift cards for interview clothes. I didn't need approval to succeed. But I did need space to build without you tearing it down before it was done. They were quiet after that, even Michael. For a few minutes, the only sound was the soft rustle of pages as my mother flipped through the portfolio. Then Margot stepped in from the patio door, tablet in hand. "Avery, you asked me to keep watching the breach logs." I nodded. Her voice was steady, but her eyes flicked toward Michael. "The intruder tried again 5 minutes ago, but this time, they didn't use your parents' address." I frowned. "Where then?" She turned the tablet toward me. It was here, inside my own network. And according to the log, the device was still connected. Somebody was in my house. The moment Margot said it, the air in the room shifted. My mother's hand froze on the portfolio. My father looked toward the hallway as if he might see the intruder walk past. Michael stiffened, his eyes flicking to the doors. Brooke muttered, "You have security here, right?" "Yes," I said, already moving toward the wall panel. My fingers flew over the touchscreen, pulling up the estate's internal surveillance feeds. Every room flickered into view. The kitchen, the halls, the guest wing, the garage. Then I saw it. Guest room 3. A figure hunched over a laptop, the glow from the screen lighting a face I knew. It wasn't Michael. It was Ethan, Brooke's husband. He was focused, his fingers tapping in bursts. His posture the same way I'd seen him lean into market reports at their country club brunch table. Except now, the graphs on his screen weren't stock trends. They were my company's access layers. I turned slowly toward Brooke. "You might want to see this." Her brow furrowed. "What?" She looked at the screen, then back at me, color draining from her face. "Ethan, what the hell are you doing?" In the feed, Ethan glanced toward the camera, realizing too late he'd been caught. He slammed the laptop shut and bolted for the door. Michael muttered something sharp under his breath and took a step toward the hallway, but I lifted a hand. "No, let him come here." A moment later, Ethan appeared in the doorway, carrying the laptop like it was nothing more than a misplaced briefcase. "I can explain," he started. "By all means," I said. He glanced at Brooke, then back at me. "Your company's valuation, your patents, the trust documents, they're worth more than most portfolios I've ever seen. I wasn't stealing. I was evaluating." "That's what you call hacking a private archive?" I asked. "I was trying to confirm something," he said, his voice sliding into that calm banker tone designed to make bad news sound palatable. "Michael mentioned—" Michael's head snapped toward him. "I didn't tell you to touch anything." "But you told me she was hiding something big," Ethan shot back. "And you were right. I figured if we knew the scope, we could protect the family's interests." Brooke's voice cracked. "You mean your interests?" Ethan opened his mouth, closed it, then looked at me. "Look, if you have all this, you should have told us. We could have helped you manage it." I stepped closer, my voice low but sharp. "I've been managing it just fine without a single Collins committee. And if you'd gotten into that vault, you wouldn't just have seen financials. You would have seen the personal care details for my parents. You would have violated their privacy for a balance sheet." He didn't deny it. The room went quiet again, only this time the silence felt heavier. "I'll have the estate's server log this," Margot said from the corner. "And I'll be escorting Mr. Hale off the property." Brooke didn't stop her. She just stared at Ethan, her eyes a mix of fury and something more fragile. Disappointment. Michael looked between us, his usual arrogance tempered. "You still want us here after this?" I met his eyes. "That depends. Are you here to talk about the care plan, as equals, or to see what else you can take?" He swallowed, and for once, didn't have a quick answer. And that's when my phone buzzed with a message from my Tokyo team. The breach wasn't just local. Someone overseas was watching too. The message from Tokyo sat on my screen like a live wire. Overseas IP mirrored the breach attempt, watching in real time. I locked the phone, slid it into my pocket, and looked at the faces around me. My mother's worry, my father's confusion, Brooke's silent storm, Michael's guarded stare. I'd spent years imagining a grand reveal of my success, but I hadn't pictured it tangled up in a family cybercrime drama. Margot stepped forward. "We can trace the overseas address if you want to follow it now." "Later," I said. "Right now, we finish what we started." We sat in the main living room. No laptops, no tablets, just people. I laid the Summit Grove portfolio on the table again and spoke slowly, making sure every word landed. "Mom, Dad, your care is secured for the rest of your lives. Every cost covered, every option open. No one here needs to debate affordability. The only decision left is how we, as a family, want to be part of that care." Michael leaned forward. "As equals?" "As equals," I confirmed. "Which means no one's voice is louder because of their paycheck. No one gets a bigger vote because of a title." Brooke nodded faintly. "I can live with that." My father's eyes brightened a little. "Then I want Sunday dinners," he said. "No excuses." We all smiled at that. Even Michael's posture eased. "I've been offered a teaching position at the business school," he said suddenly. "It's less money, but more meaningful. After today, I think I'm ready for that change." Brooke glanced at him, then at me. "I want to help at Summit Grove, not just writing checks for galas. Real work, design, art programs, something that matters." For the first time in years, I believed her. Ethan sat apart, silent, his eyes on the floor. Brooke didn't look at him. Margot would have him escorted out soon, but for now, he wasn't the center of this room. I took a breath. I've spent a decade defining myself by what I wasn't. Not the Ivy League grad, not the country club spouse, not the one who stayed close to home. That's how I survived. But it's not how I want to live anymore. Mom reached for my hand. "Then don't. Let us know you, Avery. The real you." I squeezed her fingers. "That's the plan." We talked through the logistics, visiting Summit Grove, meeting the care team, arranging a move-in date that wouldn't feel rushed. For once, the tone was collaborative, not competitive. Even Michael listened more than he spoke. By the time Chef Thomas served lunch, the tension had loosened into something almost unfamiliar: trust. It wasn't perfect. Old habits don't vanish in a day. But it was enough to start from. After the plates were cleared, we stepped out onto the terrace for a family photo. The lake shimmered in the afternoon sun, the gardens bright with late blooms. We stood together, not in rigid rows, but close enough that our shoulders touched. The camera clicked, and just like that, the image I'd carried of my family shifted from a hierarchy I had to prove myself against to a circle I could stand inside. When the helicopter took my parents home that evening, it didn't feel like a display. It felt like what it was: the fastest, safest way to get them where they needed to be. The same ride that had once been a symbol of division now just worked. I watched it lift into the sky, the blades scattering leaves in the garden, and felt something unspool in my chest. True wealth isn't in the numbers on a screen or the size of a house. It's in knowing you can stand in the center of your life without disguising who you are. If you've ever been underestimated or had to fight to be seen for who you really are, you know that moment matters more than any headline or payday. So, if this story resonates with you, share it. Tell me your own. And remember, success has many forms. But the kind worth keeping is the one that lets you stay yourself.